Visit tcgcastle.com and get 5% discount on your first purchase with TCG Center 5 code. How's it going, guys? Once again, welcome back to Pokemon TCG Center. In today's video, we'll be looking at the deck for the standard format. And this is another deck list with the Decidueye-GX. So, if you're not familiar with the Decidueye-GX, a 240 HP grass Pokemon with a feeder arrow, Razor Leaf, and Hollow Hunt GX. So, basically, we're gonna look at the Decidueye-GX in this build as a backup attack supporter. So, with a feeder arrow, once per turn we can simply put 2 damage counters to one of our opponent Pokemons in play. Why is that good? Why is that special? Simply because if we can set up 3 Decidueyes, we can have 6 damage counters per turn to any of our Pokemons in play. And on the other side, with the Latios-EX, we can use Fast Rate and we can strike for 50 with the Fighting Fury Belt easily, which means in theory we can spread 110 damage counters around the board. And with Latios, 210 HP and only 1 energy cost for attack, I think we're gonna have a long battle with our opponents till the last prize cards, especially because it's going to be hard to one-hit knock out Latios with 210 HP. On the other side, we can always surprise our opponent with the Ninja Boy into Tauros-GX, adding second energy for attack and using the advantage of the Level Ball GX, striking with 30 for each damage counter and Tauros-GX. So with the Fighting Fury Belt and let's say 7 damage counters, we can go for like 220 easily, which is just insane amount of the damage counters. Overall, 17 Pokemons, 39 trainer cards, and only 4 energies. As usual, if you're not familiar with 4 energies in deck, there's plenty of deck that actually use the only 4 energies for attack. For example, Night March, Seismitoad variants. Seismitoad EX actually used a lot of time, only 4 double cores energies back then, same as the Night March and some other decks. So I'm running 2 Shaymin-EX for the setup, 1 Tauros-GX as the backup attacker. You can also use the Rage with the Tauros-GX, of course, and 4 Latios-EX with a fast rate. Decided to go, of course, with the 4 copies of them simply because I really want to have turn 1 Latios in the active spot instead of just Rowlet or Tauros, so I can simply attack on my turn 1 with a fast rate, even if I go first. 4-3-3 line of the Rowlet, Dartrix, and the Decidueye is more than enough. I was also thinking about 4-4-4, but in that case I wouldn't be able actually to take some other cards, which is actually important. 2 copies of Devolution Spray will also help me to devolve my Decidueye, which means that I can use 1 feeder arrow twice per turn. So theoretically I can go with 100 damage counter spread with feeder arrow around the board. Also instead of the Devolution Spray, for example, we can always tag some other cards, for example like Max Potions, because Max Potion can also help a lot, definitely with durability with Latios-EX, but in that case we actually need to discard 1 energy card, and with only 4 energies it's not going to be that easy. It's not going to be an easy task to recycle them back, that's for sure. 2 copies of Level Ball and 4 copies of Ultra Ball are my main search engines in this build. So basically with 2 Level Balls I can grab my Rowlet and Dartrix, so I can pretty much set them on my bench. With the Ultra Ball I can grab any Pokemon that you can see in this list. In order to use Ultra Ball, of course, we need to discard any 2 cards from our hand. 2 copies of Revitalizer, so I can simply grab grass Pokemon from my discard pile and put it back into my hand. This is pretty good simply because I can use my Decidueyes and the Dartrix from my discard pile, so I can also discard them. Something that can also be good tech in this build is definitely Acrobike, because with the Acrobike we can simply go faster through the deck, maybe even discard those Decidueye family lines and grab them later with the Revitalizer. Super Rod ×1, just because we really need to have option to recycle those energy cards back into the deck, so that's the reason why Super Rod is here. Same as 4 copies of Trainers Mails, Ultra Balls, and VS Seekers, as always, for the best consistency we can actually have and get with build like this. Then the Stadium decision was, of course, 4 copies of Forest of Giant Plants, simply because we really want to have turn 1 at least 1 Decidueye-GX in play. So running 4 copies of Forest of Giant Plants can help a lot. On the other side, decided to go also with 2 copies of Lysandre, so I can switch one of my opponent benched Pokemons with his or her active Pokemon. 3 copies of N, so simply with the 3 copies of N, each player shuffles his or her hand into his or her deck, and then each player drops the card for each of his or her remaining prize cards. Simply as that in a late game, N can help a lot, especially ending an opponent down to 1 card can actually give us a pretty easy victory. 1 Ninja Boy, simply because we can switch between Latios into the Tauros-GX or reverse. So I really like it, simply because with the Super Rod option we can simply recycle even after we use the Level Ball GX and get the knockout. We can reshuffle our Latios and energies and bring back Tauros with the Ninja Boy in action again. With plenty of damage counters we can still use the advantage of the Rage, and with Feeder Arrow that's probably going to be more than enough for the knockout, especially if Tauros have, for example, 150 damage counters in it. That's like 180 base damage with the Fighting Fury Belt, of course, without the CGIs. So let's say we have 3 CGIs, that's like 240-50. More than enough for the 1 hit against everything. 1 copy of Olympia, so I can have free switch just in case if we stuck with my CGI in the front without Float Stone. 1 copy of Professor Kukui for extra 20 damage that I can do with my either way Tauros or Latios. 4 copies of Professor Sycamore STS, discard your hand, draw 7 new cards, and of course 2 Fighting Fury Belts, which can help me a lot to increase my damage that I can take with my Latios or with my Tauros. So basically I will have 40 extra HP and 10 more damage counters with attack. So theoretically, turn 1 with a fast rate, I can go for like 70 with the Latios, and with 3 CGIs that can be like 130 to my opponent active Pokemon, which is just insane. 2 copies of Float Stones, of course, for the free switch, actually retreat, and 4 Psychic Energies in total. Also some other cards that can be, for example, tech in this build are for sure 1 copy of Espeon-EX with the Decidueye-GX. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but Espeon can also be pretty good, simply because it can also put 10 damage counters to our opponent Pokemon in any way we like. In order to add Espeon in this build, of course, we're going to need 1 copy of Eevee, and we're also going to need 1 copy of Double Chorus Energy. So, in order to do that, we also need to discard 3 cards. So, you can simply cut, for example, 1 Lysandre, as always, so it's definitely possible to do it. Then you can cut 1 Revitalizer, or you can simply keep Revitalizers and remove both Devolution Spray, and then you can also have 1 Espeon for that Decidueye-GX, which can also be very cool and very powerful, especially to finish the game in a late game, simply because we can also, for example, use a Ninja Boy to our Eevee, and then we can simply evolve Espeon, put the Double Chorus Energy from hand, and simply go for that Decidueye-GX and spread 10 damage counters around the board, featuring a couple Feeder Arrows, which can be more than enough for the knockout. So there's plenty of different options that you can actually play this build, but I'm also going to cover this deck list with the Espeon GX, so stay tuned also for that video. So if you're looking for any of these cards, make sure to check tcgcastle.com. You can find the link in my video description. With TCG Center 5 code, you can also get 5% discount on your first purchase. If you're looking to trade your bulk for Sun and Moon Booster Box, you can also do that on TCG Castle. So everything you need to know is in my video description, so make sure to check that. I highly recommend to trade your bulk. I also personally do it by myself, just because it's plenty of cards that you don't need, and you can get something like a Seeker Ultra Ball, which is just insane card for your collection. So let's do some game test and actually see this deck in action, so see you in the game. Alright, so I want to coin flip, and I'm gonna start first, so let's just take a look at the opening hand. No basic Pokemon, same thing will apply for my opponent. Oh, I see the Mega Beedrill on the other side. Featuring a Vileplume. Alright. So starting with one copy of Rowlet, and somehow I'm gonna just Sycamore everything for 7, but I maybe even decide to go with my end, depending on the top deck. Playing again, I can still preserve one copy of VS Seeker, but under the item lock, I think I'm not gonna need it. So I will just throw everything out here with my Professor Sycamore for 7. There is Dartrix, and I'm thinking about Ultra Ball, my Tauros, and one copy of a VS Seeker. Of course, it's gonna be for Shaymin-EX, but before I do that, I have Super Rod, so that's great. Alright, so Trainers Mail for Level Ball, that's something that I can definitely use here. Of course, instead of the Revitalizer is also a great card, but I'm gonna take it later. Maybe I can even pull Revitalizer with my Shaymin. Speaking about Revitalizer, just managed to got one. So there is first the CGI, means that I can simply put 2 damage counters down to his Staryu. Then I can Devolution Spray. And I can put 2 more damage counters to his Staryu. But before I do that, I'm just gonna set up my Shaymin because I want to go for 6 instead of the 5. So will there be Latios? I'm not seeing it yet. So it's definitely time for the Feather Arrow, and I wish I can pull that Latios, or maybe even better, something like an Ultra Ball. So the first prize for me is a Latios. And this is gonna be literally it. I managed to dunk 2 of my opponent Pokemons here, so I will just retreat down to my Latios, attach my Fighting Fury Belt, and go for the fast rate of 50, which will be more than enough to knock out his Oddish and Staryu in the turn 1, so that's the GG. Alright, so looking at my opening hand, I'm more than happy. I have one Latios, I have Rowlet, I have Psychic Energy, Trainer's Mail, Shaymin, and also option to drop more cards with the N. So my opponent starts with the Oranguru. Very good card, of course, with the Instruct. You have plenty of possibility. With Oranguru, you can draw cards until you have 3 in your hand once per turn. And I must say that the new art of the cards looks just gorgeous. I mean, those new effects actually are just brilliant. So 1N. Alright. I wish I actually start first, but I didn't. In theory, I could even knock out his Oranguru on my turn 1. Alright, so I can't say I'm not happy, but I'm gonna put my Forest of Jump Lens and play one Dartrix Energy Attachment Sycamore for 7, so that's gonna be one interesting setup for me, I can definitely tell that. Ultra Ball for Lucky Helmet and Energy Switch on the other side. For the Lapras-GX, alright. So seeing right now that Lapras-GX in play means that I'm gonna face Ice Beam GX, of course, and Blizzard Burn. But still, I feel very comfortable playing against that deck. I mean, unfortunately, I can't go for the one-hit knockout against it. Maximum damage that I can actually output with my Latios is going to be 50 per turn, so that's not something crazy. But still, it's a decent damage, especially when you see on the other side your Dartrix and the CGI who can use the feeder arrows and spread the damage around the board. So there is first Forest with Jump Plains and one Dartrix, and after that I'm gonna play my Sycamore. Alright, so one more Latios for the bench, one Ultra Ball for something like Kukui and the VS Seeker. It's gonna be 4. It's gonna be for Shaymin-EX. It's gonna be for Shaymin-EX, no doubt about it. Maybe with a Trainer's Mail I can pull something like a Fighting Fury Belt, or maybe just N, but I don't need N, I need more cards with the setup. I need actually one CGI at least. So I can start applying some pressure to my opponent Pokemons. Yeah, he's gonna be Ultra Ball, no doubt about it. He's gonna be for 1 Psychic Energy and for 1 Trainer's Mail, and I don't want to be greedy here. I will just pick one of my Decidueyes. I'm gonna put one of my Decidueyes in play, and we'll use that Feeder Arrow. I'm gonna put 2 damage counters to his Oranguru, then I'm gonna Devolution Spray, put 2 more damage counters and strike for like a 40, and that's gonna be it. Really don't want to be too much greedy. There is no point doing that. I also didn't want to strike my opponent Lapras-GX on the bench. Of course, I could take a huge advantage striking and sniping his Lapras on the bench, but with the Rough Seas, he can simply easily remove 3 damage counters of my 4 with the Feeder Arrow, so decided not to do it, at least for now. On the other side, Sycamore will be for 7 again with the V-Seeker. Oh, there's 1 Pearl City. I'm gonna remove my Shaymin, which is a good thing because with the Super Rod I can bring my Shaymin back into my deck. There is just 1 Instruct from my opponent, 1 card to be drawn. And of course I'm gonna need my Forest of Giant Plants. And Sycamore on the other side. Alright. So there is the 1 Max Elixir, but no sign of the energy. So no sign of the energy, and there's also Latios-EX. I mean, in this matchup, Latios-EX is not going to be a big deal, because I'm not going to attack with my Decidueyes, so I'm not scared about it. And I think this is going to be Collect for 3. Maybe another Max Elixir and Energy Switch, but nope, just Collect for 3. Alright, so speaking about Collect for 3, the top deck for me is going to be N. And I think I'm going to play N because my opponent's hand is just too big for now. So speaking about a huge hand, there is 1 Fighting Fury Belt, and more than that, 1 energy for my another Latios on the bench. 2 damage counters with the Feeder Arrow down to his Oranguru with the Instruct, of course. I really want to take the first prize card here, knocking out his Oranguru, and of course limited his option to draw cards with the Instruct. So I managed to attack his Lapras for 50, and probably he's gonna use that Ice Beam GX, but if he decides to use Ice Beam GX, there is no chance to use Mad Bull GX after that. Alright, so there is the 3rd energy. Third energy for my opponent, and will that be it? We shall see. At least next turn I can draw 1 prize. Okay, so I'm pretty happy to see N. I'm very happy to see N, to be honest, especially if I can find something like another line of the... Alright, so Rough Seas. I mean, I would like to see Blizzard Burn instead of the Ice Beam GX. That's for sure. But even if he decides to use something like Blizzard Burn, for example, I can always Ninja Boy into my Rowlet, for example, and I can trade 1 prize instead of the 2, which I'm definitely gonna do. So I'm gonna Ninja Boy my Latios, and I'm gonna trade a prize instead of the 2 prize cards here for the knockout. Then I'm gonna promote my Latios. Then I'm gonna put another Rowlet on the bench. A Float Stone, another Latios on the bench, and Shaymin for 5. Alright, Forest of Giant Plants. Time to put some pressure to his Oranguru on the bench. So there we go, 1 knockout is here, 1 prize card for me, which is another Latios. Then I'm gonna play my Ultra Ball for Sycamore and Latios. For 1 Dartrix. So I can have 2 Dartrix. So 2 Decidueyes, unfortunately for me, are actually prized, so that's kind of bad. But never mind. 2 more damage counters goes down to the Lapras, and fast rate will be for 40, so I'm ending my turn with 8 damage counters to on my opponent Lapras, and I actually trade just a 1 prize instead of the 2 prize cards. So for the next turn, of course, I'm gonna Sycamore for 7, throwing out my Tauros-GX. Of course, I want to use Ninja Boy and promote my Tauros in the active spot, actually from the deck. This is gonna be a big surprise for my opponent. And I hope I can actually pull 2 more Decidueyes from my prize cards, so I can simply set them on the bench. That's gonna be important because putting 6 damage counters instead of just 2 per turn is huge, because in 3 turns you can knock out something like with Latios and pull 2 prize cards, or something like the Tauros-GX. With enough resources to switch between your Pokemons, you can simply do that, and especially limit your opponent's chances to go for the knockout. So 1 Sycamore for 7. 1 Sycamore for 7. The best thing he can do is he can use the Blizzard Burn for like 160, but then turn after that Lapras is not going to be able to attack, which will probably help me to knock him out. Of course, Pokemon Ranger can fix that. Pokemon Ranger can easily fix that, but oh, there's Escape Rope. Alright, never mind. Escape Rope, I'm going to promote my Decidueye with a Float Stone, of course, in the active spot. Maybe he decided to go with a Tauros-GX. Okay, no problem. No problem. I will not try to attack his... Oh, Energy Switch. So it's going to be 6 damage counters for my Decidueye at this moment. So, Horn Attack for 60. One Revitalizer. Nothing significantly can be picked from my discard pile into my hand, so I'm gonna play my Sycamore for 7. I didn't get my Super Rod, which is not good at all. However, I did get my Lysandre for next turn, so I think it's definitely time to run to my Latios and to use my fast rate for only 40 damage counters. Only 40 at this moment. Next turn, of course, I'm gonna Lysandre his Lapras on the bench, and I will go for 60. Turn after that, I will try to knock him out. Of course, I will definitely need my Super Rod, so I can recycle back my Tauros in the deck, and Psychic Energies. That's right now the most important thing for me. On the other side, I also feel how maybe Lysandring his Glaceon on the bench is not a bad idea, especially because I will have more time maybe to prepare the one-hit knockout against his Lapras-GX, but he decided to throw everything out with the Sycamore, of course. Maybe he's just trying to find Manaphy for the free switch. Yes, there we go, there's a Manaphy, so right now he can have the free retreat between his Pokemons in play, but as long as there is no Rough Seas, I'm more than comfortable, because after he managed to get Rough Seas, I will only have 1 more Stadium to counter him. And I hope that the top deck for me is going to be Super Rod. I really need it. I really need right now that Super Rod, no doubt about it. 1 Max Elixir. Only 14 cards remaining for my opponent. I see the Lysandre and 2 VA Seekers in his discard pile. Of course he's going to hit Max Elixir because he only has 5 energies in play and 2 in discard pile. That's like 7 in total. Let's assume that he run at least 11 or 12 of them. More than enough. Alright, so will there be a Horn Attack, or will he just decide to switch down to the Lapras and go with the Blizzard Burn for like 160? Even going for 160 in this situation is going to be much smarter in my opinion. But then I'm still not going to be able to go for the one-hit knockout without Fighting Fury Belt. I have Professor Kukui, but I'm still going to need Fighting Fury Belt for the one-hit knockout. There's a Pearl City again. So I'm throwing out my Dartrix line. Throwing out my Dartrix line. Even I shouldn't do that. Even I should just discard my Latios, but I don't know. For the late game especially, I think having more Latios to switch them with Olympia might be a little bit better idea. So there's a Lapras, and this is going to be Blizzard Burn for 160. 140 because of the Pearl City in play. Top deck for me is Olympia, but that's not something that I was hoping to get. Going for only 60 with his Tauros means that he's not going to be able... Actually, he's going to be able exactly to go for the knockout, so I'm going to use my V-Seeker. I'm going to try to get that Fighting Fury Belt with my Professor Kukui. At least I can play Level Ball and see if I even have Fighting Fury... Yes, I have Fighting Fury Belt left, so let's see if there's going to be a Fighting Fury Belt. Yep, it will be. So I can go for the knockout against his Lapras, plus I can still survive next turn against his Tauros, which is very, very important in this case. So one fast trade will be enough for the knockout, so exactly 70, and I'm pulling 2 prize cards, which is going to be Ultra Ball and the Decidueye-GX. There we go. So 3 more prize cards for me. I can still Super Rod and Ninja Boy, my opponent, of course. And I have exactly everything for that. I'm just missing the Super Rod. But I feel very comfortable right now because I have 140 damage, plus I have 170 plus 40, 210 HP, which means that Tauros can actually knock me out if he can find Fighting Fury Belt. But I'm not sure if my opponent runs actually Fighting Fury Belt in his deck because I saw those lucky helmets. Without Fighting Fury Belt, he can't go for the knockout. Without Professor Kukui, he can't go for the one-hit knockout. But actually, he has Professor Kukui in his discard pile. The question is, can he maybe get somehow that V-Seeker? He only has 1 card available in his hand. However, he can just strike for like a 60 at this moment. How's things going on? So this is going to be the switch and a Mineral Pump for 60, healing 30 damage from that Tauros-GX on the bench. Alright, actually minus 20. I always forget about that Pearl City. So I'm gonna play my Super Rod right now, and I'm gonna recycle my Shaymin, my Tauros, and one of my Psychic Energies. Yep, I'm definitely going to do that. I'm gonna put my second TCG in play. Right now it's time to put my Latios in play. It's time to Ultra Ball. Okay, it's time for that Shaymin-EX. So I simply need to drop that energy card. So I can simply have enough resources for the knockout. So let's just put damage counters down to his Tauros. There we go. Shaymin for 3. Will there be energy card? Yes. Oh no, Tauros is back in my hand, which means I simply can't set up my Tauros. So I'm gonna need... Yeah, that's bad. That's so bad. Never mind. Running back to my Latios, at least I have energy in my hand, so this is gonna be not even Professor Kukui, just a 40 damage with a fast rate. Oh gosh, I managed to pull energy, but I also drove my Tauros, so I couldn't use the advantage of my Ninja Boy here, which is so bad. And there's a 1 Max Elixir, which means that he top deck Max Elixir, and probably he don't have nothing in his hand, which means that I can knock out his Manaphy next turn. There is one energy, so for that energy for the Articuno, and the second energy from his hand to the Articuno. Will there be mineral pump, another mineral pump for 60? We shall see. Probably it's gonna be another mineral pump here for 60.